Hola everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. And today I want to wrap up the books that I read in the month of January. And I had a pretty good reading month in January. I read a total of 14 things. I'll start with all of the picture books that I read, then I'll go up from there. So the first picture book that I read was Martin's Big Words, The Life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Doreen Rappaport. And it looks like this. This is just to make it easier on editing so I don't have to download all of the pictures and whatnot. And I thought it was good. I thought, you know, it's a good way to illustrate the words and the thoughts of Dr. Martin Luther King. I was reading it because January 17th was Martin Luther King Day and we had it on display. And yeah, I thought it was good. This author has done a lot of the same type of picture book for a lot of other historical figures, like Helen's Big World, The Life of Helen Keller, Abe's Honest Words, The Life of Abraham Lincoln, etc., etc. So if you're looking for sort of non-fiction-y picture books, maybe check her out. And then I read The Book Rescuer, How a Mensch from Massachusetts Saved Yiddish Literature for Generations to Come by Sue Macy, illustrated by Stacy Innerst. Oh, the illustrator for Martin's Big Words was Brian Collier. And this is what it looks like. And it's a picture about this gentleman who was realizing that the Yiddish books and Yiddish literature was disappearing. A lot of people were either getting rid of it or tossing it or had it in storage and didn't really think much of it, and so he just started collecting and collecting and collecting until he basically created this this massive collection of Yiddish literature items. And yeah, it was really interesting. It's another one of those picture book nonfiction. Then I read Love by Mate La Peña, illustrated by Lauren Long, and it looks like this. And it's a beautifully illustrated picture book about the exploration of love and what it means within people within a community, and it was very, very nice. And then I read Finding Winnie, the True Story of the World's Most Famous Bear by Lindsay Maddock and Sophie Blackhall. And I think Lindsay Maddock is the like granddaughter of the man who rescued the bear that ended up in this London Zoo that became the inspiration for Winnie the Pooh. And it was really, really sweet. It was like her telling her son the story about her father or her grandfather, and it was really, really sweet. I didn't really know much about the story behind that bear, and it has pictures on the back of, like, actual pictures of the man and Winnie and everything, and that's what the cover looks like. Then for Valentine's, I read Valentine's by Ethan Long, and this is, he's done a sort of series of these types of books, and they're called the Fright Club series, and this is the second one, and it looks like this, and it's just a really funny Valentine's book from the perspective of sort of our traditional monsters, so like Frankenstein, Brad Frankenstein, you know, bats, ghosts, things like that. And so it's just a really, really funny take on how monsters view Valentine's and view love. It's just really silly. Then I read a really beautiful one called The History of Me. It's a brand new picture book by Adria Theodore, illustrated by Erin Robinson, and it's about what we see when we look in the mirror, specifically with this black child and then woman sees as she's growing up, and how the world perceives her versus how she perceives herself. And I think it's just a beautiful depiction of that self-love and loving who you are and your roots and your color and your hair and your heritage and everything that comes sort of along with who you are. And so that's what the cover looks like. It's an absolutely gorgeous cover, and it is beautifully illustrated. Then for graphic novels, I read Something is Killing the Children, Volume 2 by James Tinian IV, illustrated by Werther Dell'Edera, and it looks like this. And so it's just a continuation of the mystery behind the beings and entities that are killing the children in this community, and we kind of get to learn a little bit more about the institutions that are trying to help but also hide the truth, and our different characters. We get to learn a little bit more about them. This is just it's a really fun series. I really like it. I really like the illustrations. They're really creepy. They remind me a little bit of the illustrations of the graphic novel Through the Woods, which is also like a horror graphic novel that sort of has like the grit and that same vibe and feel. And I'm excited to continue on with the series. And then I also read Tokyo Ghoul Volume 3, and I'm continuing to really enjoy the story, getting to know more about our main characters, and so that's sort of the ideas behind how we view the ghouls, and how our main character is able to navigate both worlds of humans and ghouls. And it's just really fun. I'm really invested in the story, and yeah, I'm just having a really good time with it. The first full-length novel that I read was Rules of Civility by Amari. This I've had for many years, and I finally got around to it. This is my friend Olive over at Book Olive's like favorite fiction book of life, and I loved it so much. I don't typically read historical fiction, but I really fell in love with these characters and this time. It's set in late 1930s New York, and it's about how a series of events sort of leads our main character sort of straight into the upper echelons of New York society, and how she's able to navigate through them. And I have seldom just like immediately fallen in love with a main character as quickly as I did. I loved her intelligence. I loved her spirit. There are so many qualities about her that I really love and admire, and she reminds me of a more modern kind of like Lizzie Bennet type. Yeah, and I loved it so much. It's a quiet story. It's just about these characters. It's very much a really exploration of these characters and their relationships and their outlook on life. And yeah, I was completely invested in the story. I didn't want to put it down. I really wanted to learn more about them, and more specifically about our main character, Katie Content, which, you know, it's a great name. And yeah, I highly recommend it if historical fiction is your thing. If you enjoy more quiet novels, if you like more character-driven novels, I would recommend this. Then I read Jade City by Fonda Lee, which is the first in the Jade Greenbone saga. And this is an urban fantasy where we have these different like gangs of individuals who are able to use jade to enhance their abilities and their power, and we get a lot of political machinations and a rift that is going on between these two entities. And it's about we're getting the perspective of the top sort of leading family of one of the clans, and about how their outlook on the situation and their city and their family history, because they've all been involved in this clan, and the wars and the history of the region. And it was so fun. Like I didn't want to put it down. Every free chance that I had, I wanted to be reading it. I really loved all of the characters, and how to me it felt like there was a good balance of action and character development. I liked that it felt real within the context of the world. You know, obviously we have all of these fantastical elements, but it felt like everything that was happening sort of fit the characters and fit the story. Everything that she wrote really fit the story and really fit the world that she's trying to create and the characters that she is telling us about. And I just had such a good time with it. I don't tend to read a lot of more urban fiction, but I'm really happy that I did. It's a diverse fantasy, I really enjoyed my time with it. Can't wait to continue on with the series. Oh, I forgot a graphic novel. I read Who the F Are You by Huda Fahmy, and this is a young adult graphic novel about, it's sort of semi autobiographical, semi memoir-ish with some fictionalized elements, and it's about Huda, who moves with her family to a new town in which she is no longer the only Muslim girl in her school, and so it's kind of about her realizing that she needs to find her own identity beyond what other people think of her. She does a lot of like fitting into the mold of what other people create and what idea they have of her. She just tries to fit that and sort of pretends to be that person because she isn't doing the work to look internally and find her own person. And so it's about her learning to do that and her developing relationship with her mother and her family, and just really kind of a coming of age type of story. And I thought it was good. It was nice. It was funny and lighthearted. Yeah, I mean it was entertaining and it was good, and I appreciated it for what it was. I thought the art style was okay and the storytelling was okay. I didn't think either were particularly fantastic, but I thought that it was interesting, and I and I appreciate that it's another representation of the life of a young Muslim girl. I think in the author's note she says that, you know, it's not a monolith and she's not intending this story to be representative of all young Muslim girls like her, which I appreciate, and I obviously, as readers, we all need to recognize that. I think that's a failing sometimes of a lot of reviewers, to feel like, oh, this one story doesn't tell it all. And so I appreciate the author's note, and it's also disappointing that it needs to be said. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was okay. My young adult book of the month was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and this is the first in a YA mystery series, and I thought it was okay. I thought the pacing was... So here's why I'm being so general about it. I don't really remember much about the story. It's about this girl who's like obsessed with this crime that happened at this school, so she manages to get admission into the school. Her big reason for being there is to try and find out what happened in this crime, because she doesn't think that what is known about it is really the truth of what happened. And it just felt okay. I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters. I didn't really feel like I got to the core of any of them or really got to know any of them. I don't like that this was not like a complete story in and of itself, even though it's within a series. Like, it leaves you in a huge cliffhanger, and then you don't actually find out many answers, so you're kind of forced to continue on with the story if you want. Whereas I prefer when each story is sort of like holistically told within itself, and then you know that you can continue, but like that story had its own arc, and then we're gonna get another one as each book in the series goes along. Like, this is very obviously a book in a series, but this story is whole in itself. And I didn't feel that about this, and I think I was reading, maybe it was someone said something similar in the Goodreads comments. Actually, I think I might have it open. I think it might have been Marines. Yeah, I mean, I gave it like a 2.5. I thought it was okay. Like, I can see why a YA audience would like it, but obviously I'm not the target audience for this. I'm not the target audience for YA mysteries, because I'm not a young adult anymore. I mean, I guess I am in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, comparatively, but I'm not the target audience for this particular novel, so it makes sense that I would just think it's okay. It's not the type of mystery that I like to read either. There's a lot of the stuff that I just felt was like, look, like, this feels so far-fetched. Like, I don't know, do teenagers actually have these types of lives? Who knows, maybe not, but yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was fun. I'm glad I read it, because the reason I read it was to do better reader's advisory. So now if I get someone asking for this particular type of YA mystery, I know where to direct them, which is the entire point of this sort of project. In a more successful part of the monthly project that I have for myself, it was my middle grade read for the month, which was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. And this was such a good book. It is a great middle grade fantasy about this young girl who is desperate to find out the truth about the disappearance of her brother, and in sort of doing her own search and not giving up hope, she kind of stumbles across the fact that magic is real, and she learns a lot about her brother's life that she didn't know before, and she finds out that she has magical abilities. And so it's about her being involved in her brother's world, trying to find out what happened, and finding out all about the background, the history, and the machinations of this institution that her brother was involved with, and that she now is involved with and wants to be with. So like major plot point wise, I said this in my reading blog that I found a lot of similarities to the Nevermore series. So if you like that, you probably really like this as well. The sort of young girl who finds out that magic exists, that finds out that that within this magical world, she is someone that she's inherently someone that this world misunderstands and judges, because they have a preconceived notion of what this type of individual is, and how that they can be bad, and sort of trials that they have to overcome in order to be part of this magical institution or group. So those kind of major plot components are similar. Obviously the specifics of our characters and their stories are different, and there's the added component that I really appreciate, obviously, in Amari and the Night Brothers, where the sort of a lot of what she's having to deal with personally, it has to do with her her family's financial status, and the fact that she's like a poor black kid who has to have scholarships to go to school, and she's bullied a lot and things like that. And so those social components were really interesting, and I think pivotal to the story as well. I loved our characters, I loved our development, I love how she grew into herself and the agency that she learned. And yeah, there was a lot about it that was so much fun and really, really great and interesting, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. The next one I believe should be out this year. Then last but not least, I read Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is a pretty short one. It's said by many to be a good introduction into science fiction. I am trying to get more into science fiction, so I decided to give it a try. And this was so ridiculous, but like in a good way. I think if you enjoy like absurd and out there British humor, you'll really like this. This is a story that I went into it knowing absolutely nothing. I've never seen any of the like TV or movie adaptations. I don't know what they are, but I've never seen anything about it. I don't really know anything about the story, so I went in completely blind, and I quickly realized that I just sort of have to take it for what it is. I have to take it at face value. I can't be like, that makes no sense, and like what, and sort of dissect it too much. You just have to take it for what it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and so I as a reader didn't, and that just increased my enjoyment of it. I think this was ridiculous and absurd and hilarious, and I chuckled aloud multiple times. I don't feel terribly compelled to continue on with the story immediately, but I'm really glad that I gave it a shot, and I'm really glad that I enjoyed myself with it and had a good time. Ultimately, it's about this this alien who is this like alien being who is on Earth because he's a researcher for this book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And on the day in which we are introduced to all of the characters, the book opens up on the day that Earth is supposed to be destroyed, because there's this like galactic, basically interstate highway that is going to go through Earth, and Earth has to be destroyed in order for that to be built. And sort of chaos ensues from there, and there's all these other ridiculous things that happen. And yeah, I mean, it was fun, and it was entertaining, and it was interesting. And if you like science fiction, I recommend it if you for some reason haven't read it yet and you're a fan of science fiction. So yeah, this was that. I had a pretty fun and interesting beginning of my year reading wise. I am excited to see what February brings. I am reading almost entirely just books by Black authors for Black History Month. So yeah, I will see you all in the next one. I've recently uploaded my January reading vlog if you'd like to check that out, as well as all of my reading wrap-ups for 2021 are up if that interests you at all, sort of like reading stats and favorites and things like that. So as always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love y'all very much.